Hi, I'm Peter Fougerousse, and today I'm going to show you all our new electrical system that we installed. This is a retrofit. We're putting it on an older vessel, the Barramundi, and the main thing I want to show you all is how you can fit a large system with a lot of capacity in a small space. That was our objective here, and so we managed to fit 1,300 amp hours worth of battery and also Victron energy systems like the Argofet and the smart shunt and everything just under this bench in our boat here in the salon, where we used to have well, originally they installed only 4 service batteries, and those were lead acid batteries, and then there were 2 engine array batteries and 1 for the generator, so only a total of 7 batteries. That was later expanded into the seat that I'm sitting on right now, and there were a total of 7 lead acid service batteries in that array. We've now expanded this to 9 AGM batteries, and we managed to do that because AGM, you can stack them on their sides. So we also came up with an ingenious way to keep everything in place so that we wouldn't have things shaking around, and nothing in this compartment moves or makes a sound, which is also great. So next I'll show you how we set the whole thing up. Okay, so we've taken the cushions off, and here you can see this is not a huge compartment, and we've managed to fit all of the systems that I talked about into this bench. So I'm going to start on this end. Here we have put it on the strap just because we use Velcro to keep everything in place. And that sounds kind of chintzy perhaps, but it really isn't. It actually is better and holds more than most straps. If you strap things down in a conventional battery holder or strap system, those things actually do shift around a little bit. Inside this compartment, everything is attached with Velcro. So the batteries are stacked one on top of the other with Velcro, and they don't budge even 1 millimeter. So that's set up here as well as in this compartment here. Now we got lucky because we have exactly the measurement of the width of these batteries, which are stacked on their side, was the distance between the bottom of our battery box and this. And so, but if you, let's say that you have a different set of measurements, I would highly recommend doing this even so and just putting in some spacers because of how solid it is. So here you see we have 4 AGM batteries. Each of these AGM batteries is 115 amp hours. And here you have another 4, and these are all connected in parallel. And we decided to keep a 12-volt system. That was just kind of a decision that we made based on the fact that we would have to change so many other systems in this boat, and honestly we wanted to keep it simple. So here you see where some of the components are housed in this compartment. So this is the 9th AGM battery of the system array. Here we have a total of 1,035 amp hours. These 2 batteries here are part of the older system, which we've used in the new setup, and these are lead acid batteries, and they're for our engine starters, our winches, and our windlass. One of my favorite additions to this system is the Argofet. Now, one of the things I want to mention here, people may be critical of how much we have going on in this space, that is a decision that we made to save space. And the alternative would have been to have a cabinet probably sitting where I am to house all of the wiring and the various components. We decided not to do that, and so it wasn't a big deal. Ultimately, it's really the Argofet and the Smart Shunt are the main components that are on this end. So the Argofet is a really great addition. We have two engines, two diesel engines. Each of them has an alternator. And what the Argofet did for us is previously the setup was that engine 1 would charge the engine and sailing, the windlass and everything else batteries. And then the service batteries were charged by engine 2. In addition to that, we have a 9 kilowatt generator, but the Argofet gives us the ability to, when running either one or both of the alternators, to charge up these batteries, and then when these are fully charged, it spills over into the service array. So whichever array requires a power or charging, it switches between those. And I've been amazed at how much power we can generate with those two alternators. So if we're just motoring into the port here of Rijeka from a short distance, it'll take the charge of these 1035 amp hour battery array from 90 to 100 in a matter of probably 30 minutes. Before that, we experienced that while motoring for longer periods of time with one alternator charging one system and one the other, they would eventually fill up. Here now, if we're running the engines, we're topping off the batteries continuously. So the other thing that I should mention here is the Smart Shunt. So the Smart Shunt is an interesting thing. It's hard to understand really how it works. You have the ground of both of those arrays connected on either side, and then that is connected to the ship ground. It's able to tell the charge based on the difference between those two sides, and that information goes back to all of the systems in the boat. All the electrical systems. So one of the other components of the system is the BMV-712. The BMV-712 is right over here. We installed it in our navigation station, and it communicates via Bluetooth to all the other devices in the system. So here you can see you can actually monitor the amps that you're consuming, the voltage of the system, all of the current charge of the system, all the things that you can monitor on the service batteries. So then I'll show you. Here we installed one of the biggest challenges was we added a significant amount of wiring to the system. So this is our switching cabinet right here, and here if you go look in the back, you can see some of those additional wires that we had to install. That's because some of these are double runs going back and forth from the Quattro. We have a Victron Quattro that gives us our 220, so we have a 220 system here. And what we did to create a little extra space is we cut this panel, we put the negative switches on the side here, and that gave us a little extra room in here to install the additional fuses and also run the extra wire. So when we were in the process of this, I did get a little concerned when I saw just how many wires we were running, but once you cut everything down to size and fit everything into place, it works just fine. So next I'll show you the Cerbo unit, the Quattro, and the solar chargers that feed into this. Here you can see where they feed in. So these are your solar charger 1 and 2, feeding the service array, and then here you see the line, the negative, and under here the positive line going back to the Quattro. These lines here come in from the alternators into the Argofet, and that Argofet, that is the system that charges both battery arrays from this alternators. On this side we have our touch screen for the whole system. Here you can monitor the shore power, in this case your photovoltaic system, which we have switched off at the moment, the charge of your batteries, and the AC load on the system. Now these same display pages can be seen also over Bluetooth on any device, and you connect this to your router on your boat so that they actually display a page that you can look at from any browser. You can even put this out on the internet, and you can control the system through the same methods. So here you see the BMV-712 smart system telling us this information, and it brings it all back to this nice little graph where you can see sort of what's happening on the system. This is connected to a Cerbo unit in here. This has COM cables, and you can see how small this is. We just installed it right above our autopilot, and it connects to the little touchscreen that we were talking about. And here you have the communication cables that talk to the various systems, like the solar chargers. Takes up very little space. We were able to fasten in here behind the chains of our autopilot. So now I'll take you into the engine room. So our engine room is pretty spacious. We have our generator right here. This is our 9 kilowatt generator. And then we have our two diesel engines, two Perkins Prima 60 engines. This one we recently installed a new alternator, and that was while we were installing the Argofet, and realized that the old alternator was not really putting off a lot of power once we did that. And we tested it and decided just to go ahead and replace it. So here on the wall you see this is the heart of the system. And here too we were able to take out the old battery charger, and on the same board fit in the Quattro, which is, it doesn't have a very big footprint because it's sort of deep. Solar charger 1, solar charger 2, the circuit breakers for the whole system. Here you see the input from the generator. This is the output from the shoreline to the Quattro, and here we have the AC power going to the whole boat through that wire right there. We just the other day connected a couple of outlets in here. I actually use these to charge batteries. I kept 3 of our batteries from the old service array sort of as a backup. They were the best of the 7, and I figured I'd keep them in case we needed to jump start something, or I wanted to use them for some other purpose. One of the things that I didn't mention is that in that bench there's another battery that's sort of hidden out of sight. That's the starter for the generator. That battery I've kept completely isolated from the entire system, sort of as a precaution. That way it doesn't matter what we're doing. If we're sailing through the night, we run our service batteries and our engine batteries low with winches and whatnot, we would still be able to fire up the generator and power up the entire system. I think that now that I've been using the Argofet a little bit more, I think I would be comfortable putting a 3 battery array system for engines and generator, and just simply setting up security measures in place so that I don't run all of those empty. For now though, before I do that, I do have plenty of extra ways of jump starting things. So this is the Quattro. The Quattro is a great system. It gives us our 220 volt AC. It also basically it's the nexus between all these different systems, so it's able to handle voltages from all the different systems and automatically switch. So one of the things that we used to have to do is we used to have to switch between shore power and the generator, for example. This system, you can fire up the generator while you're on shore power, and it'll just take that extra power and use it wherever it can. Same thing if you're disconnecting from shore power, it seamlessly and without a second's delay switches the AC to the Quattro. At that point you hear that little buzzing sound from the alternating current. Right now it's really silent. So that's the whole system. You can see we fit it into a small space between the bench in the salon, and here basically it takes up the same space that our old Charger did. And one of the things to keep in mind is when you set up a system like this on 12 volt, you're going to have some very large cables, and so on this boat we had plenty of room to run conduit under the floor, over top of the water tanks to the salon, and from the Argofet same direction to the alternators in here. That's something to definitely keep in mind. A lot of people, just because of the fact that you have to have such large cable sizes for a 12 volt system, they like to put them in series and make a 24 or a 48 volt system. We didn't want to do that, like I said, just because we would have to change so many other components, light fixtures and everything else. That was our system, and feel free to ask us any questions. We'd be happy to answer. One thing I wanted to mention before I let you go is the fact that we were able to get all the schematics of how to do this setup directly from Victron, and that was something that really helped. It makes it so that anyone really can do this installation. It was kind of intimidating at first, especially when we disassembled the existing system. It felt kind of like we would not be able to get it back together again. Because we have such a small space here and we use such large cables, which is necessary with a 12 volt system, that also we became worried that we wouldn't be able to fit all of it in here. As you can see, it does fit, so I think that anybody can do this installation as long as they have the right information when getting started. And like I said, feel free to ask us any questions. Thank you.